Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. I thought I'd spend some time today with you explaining how I go about developing the Property Imperative Weekly. That's the weekly blog post, which normally goes out later on a Sunday afternoon or evening. So the first part of the exercise is to write the script, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. And to do that, I go back over the posts that I've made over the last week or so on the Digital Finance Analytics blog site, and also look at the latest information that's come in overnight, and essentially distill all of the information into a script which is normally 4 or 5 pages in length. Okay, so I've just finished editing the script. It's running to about 4 to 5 pages, which is quite typical. That will give me a run time of about 20 minutes in terms of the length of the video. And I've now saved it up to Dropbox. That's a critical step because what I have to do now is to load the script up onto the AutoCue. And in fact, the AutoCue is an iPad application that sits in front of the camera. And I'll show you later how the AutoCue works. Typically, it takes me between half an hour and 1.5 hours to go through the various posts that I've made over the last week, and also include anything else that's come in over the last 24 hours or so, to write a bit of a story around the property and finance market in Australia and beyond. There's always more material than I've got time to cover, so I have to go through and prune it quite ruthlessly to be able to make a story that flows, and hopefully that will be compelling to the audience. Quite often I'm referring back to work that I've done previously, so in some cases I'll summarise the arguments that I've made before, and I'll also introduce some new material, so on every occasion the audience will be able to get something new from the content. So now we'll move across and begin to set up the camera so that we can make the recording, and I'll update you on that shortly. Okay, so I've now uploaded the script to the AutoCue, and I'm now going to set up the studio so that we can make the recording. There's a few things we need to do. Firstly, we need to set up the back screen. There's nothing particularly fancy about the back screen. It literally is just a sheet of coloured plastic, but it does work quite well. So the dogs don't like it, so they often run away when I'm trying to put the screen up. Despite the fact that I do this very regularly, they always run away. There we go. You're going to come back? Come on, in you come. In you come. Come on, in you come. The next thing to do is to put the lighting. This is the rear light. This is the one that backlights onto the back screen. And then we just need a seat on which I sit. That's that part of it set up. Okay, so now I've changed direction, and we're looking now towards the camera. This is the camera set up over here, and also the microphone. So we need to get the microphone round into position so that it can actually capture the sound fine. I use a DF780C LED panel. This is the one here, which gives me a nice even light. I'm just going to bring that forward to position it appropriately. Well, that works quite well there. I used to use a smaller spotlight, but I find that this gives me a much more even light and works quite well. So this is the gear that I use. It's relatively straightforward. I've got a Sony A7S camera at the back there. It's sitting behind a small teleprompter screen, which is here. The image from the teleprompter is actually projected onto the iPad, which sits in the tray there and sits up on the screen. And then I record out through to a Shogun Inferno rather than actually recording on the A7S itself. That gives me the opportunity then of monitoring what's going on the set as I record, and also creates a higher resolution file. It's actually recorded in ProRes, which is easier to edit, and also gives me higher quality in 4K than I could get out of the camera directly. Okay, so I'm loading up the application called Teleprompt Plus, which is the one that I use with the setup. And the beauty of that is that I can then control it from a second iPad. if I need to run back and do it again. And so what I have to do is to make the Wi-Fi connection between the two iPads. It means I've got full control of the script as I go. So when I press start prompt on this one, it fires up over on the other one. Okay, that's all ready to go. So then what I need to do is to turn the lights on. So I've got two lights at the back, one on each side, and now I'm going to turn the light on at the front as well, so that'll change the picture. There we go. That's now everything ready to go, and then I need to turn on both the camera. That's the A7S camera. And I've also got here a MixPre 6. And the MixPre 6 is the audio mixer that drives the microphone. I'm using a Rode NT-G3 here that goes into the MixPre 6. I find the MixPre 6 a really, really good little device because it allows me to record the audio separately as well as into the camera. So if anything goes wrong in the camera, I've always got the audio as a backstop. So that works quite well. And then I also have to remember to turn on the Shogun, as the Shogun effectively is the recording device. And occasionally I forget to put the SSD in the device, so now I always check to make sure that it's working. So if I now talk into the microphone, I can see that I'm getting the premix showing me the audio. I'm seeing I'm getting the audio on the Shogun. Okay, so I'm now pretty much ready to go, and I'm going to start making the recording. Welcome to the Property Imperative Weekly, the 28th of April 2018. Hello again, I'm Martin North, the Principal of Digital Finance Analytics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so that's completed. It's in the can, hopefully it went reasonably well. I had to do a couple of retakes, but we'll now go across and do some editing and try and finalise the file as soon as we can. Okay, so I've now retrieved the cassette from the Shogun Inferno. It's just a small SSE diode and a little cartridge. So now we can plug that straight into the computer and then start editing. The editing is done in Premiere Pro, and it can take perhaps half an hour or so, depending on how many errors I made when I recorded it, and depending on how much video I'm putting into it or how many clips I'm also including. So this is where the fun part starts. So one of the things I'm doing here at the moment is to put it onto a 1080 timeline. So although I record at 4K, the final video gets mastered to a 1080 timeline. I find that works better for YouTube. And before I start editing, I make some changes to the contrast, which I give it a bit of a kick up, and also just increase the shadow slightly. I find that gives me the right sort of balance. Welcome to the Property Imperative Weekly, the 28th of April 2018. Hello again, I'm Martin North, the Principal of Digital Finance Analytics. In this week's summary of the latest finance property news. So I'm not going to bore you with the rest of that. It'll take me a little while to work through it. I'll catch you at the end of the process. Hello again, I'm Martin North, the Principal of Digital Finance Analytics. In this week's summary of the latest finance and property news, we start with the Royal Commission into Financial Services Misconduct. Well, so there we are, that's now complete. It's taken me just over the hour to do all the editing and the other little bits of insert. It's quite complicated this week, there's quite a few bits of video to drop in. But it's now done, and I'm just going to start rendering it out, which will take somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes. And then I can put it up onto YouTube, so hopefully it'll be up within the hour. So I hope that's given you a little bit more of an insight as to how we do what we do. It's pretty much routine because we do generate quite a few videos both for YouTube and also for other clients as well. So it's pretty much just our standard production cycle. So if I count up the time taken from starting to write the script through to recording and editing it, it's taken just under 3 hours, which is pretty typical with this sort of piece of work. And the end video is just over 20 minutes. So there we are, that's pretty much the end of the story. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you very much for watching, and do check back next time. I'm Martin North, the Principal of Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching.